15 years after the human exodus, Ambassador Zektar sat in his luxurious office overlooking the council capital city. Outside his window, the ordered streets and perfect buildings of the galactic government stretched to the horizon. Everything appeared normal, but disturbing reports from the Outer Rim had been arriving for months. Intelligence Director Velthon entered the office carrying a datapad filled with information that made no sense. The tall, gray-skinned alien looked worried as he placed the device on Zektar's desk. "The situation in the Outer Rim is becoming more concerning," Velthon said. "Our trade ships are reporting strange energy readings near the human exclusion zone. Several vessels have gone missing entirely." Zektar picked up the datapad and scrolled through the reports. Merchant captains described seeing lights in space where no stars should exist. Ships reported instrument malfunctions when approaching the region where humans had been exiled. Most troubling of all, 3 Council patrol vessels had disappeared without sending any distress signals. "Have we attempted direct contact with the human settlements?" Zektar asked. "Every communication attempt has failed," Velthon replied. "Our signals reach the Outer Rim but receive no response. It's as if the humans have vanished completely." Prime Analyst Kethmore of the Zentari species arrived for the scheduled briefing. His race had built their reputation on technological superiority and precise scientific methods. The idea that humans might have developed beyond Zentari understanding was deeply disturbing to him. "I have reviewed all available data," Kethmore announced as he took his seat. "The energy signatures we're detecting from the Outer Rim are impossible. According to known physics, no species should be able to generate power outputs of this magnitude, especially not a group of refugees using salvaged equipment." Zektar felt a cold fear growing in his stomach. When they had exiled the humans, the Council had been confident that isolation would eventually lead to their decline. The Outer Rim planets were supposed to be barely habitable. Resources were limited. Without access to galactic trade and technology, humans should have struggled just to survive. "What kind of energy outputs are we talking about?" Zektar asked. Kethmore activated a holographic display showing sensor readings from the past year. "The power generation in the Outer Rim now exceeds the combined output of all core worlds. Furthermore, we're detecting gravity fluctuations that suggest massive construction projects, space stations or shipyards far larger than anything we've ever built." Velthon added more disturbing information. "The merchant ship Golden Wing transmitted a distress signal 3 days ago while conducting trade runs near the exclusion zone. When our rescue fleet arrived, they found the ship floating intact but completely empty. The crew had vanished, and the ship's computers showed readings that violate everything we know about space and time." Zektar stood and walked to the window. In the distance, he could see the massive Council fleet that protected the capital world. Thousands of ships built using the most advanced technology known to galactic civilization. Until recently, he had felt confident that no force in the galaxy could challenge Council authority. "Could the humans have received help from an outside power?" Zektar asked. "Perhaps a species from beyond our known galaxy?" "We've found no evidence of external contact," Kethmore replied. "All data suggests the humans are developing these capabilities on their own. Somehow, in just 15 years, they've advanced from refugees using salvaged technology to whatever they've become now." The 3 Council leaders sat in uncomfortable silence. The species they had dismissed as chaotic and primitive had somehow accessed technologies that challenged everything the Council thought they knew about the universe. Worse, they were doing it in complete isolation, beyond all oversight or control. "I want authorization for a full reconnaissance mission," Velthon said. "We need to know what we're dealing with." Zektar nodded. "Take a full battle fleet. If the humans have developed advanced technology, we need to assess whether they pose a threat to galactic stability." 3 weeks later, Admiral Gorath led a fleet of 50 Council warships toward the human exclusion zone. The mixed force included the most advanced vessels from every major Council species: Zentari science ships, Altarian battlecruisers, and Hegemony assault carriers. "Approaching the outer rim boundary," reported the fleet's navigation officer. "All ships are reporting normal operations." Admiral Gorath studied the sensor displays from his flagship's bridge. Space appeared empty except for the distant stars that marked human territory. No ships, no energy signatures, no signs of the massive construction projects intelligence had reported. "Begin deep scanning protocols," Gorath ordered. "I want to know what's out there." The fleet's most powerful sensors reached out across space, searching for any sign of human activity. For several minutes, the readings showed nothing but empty void. Then, without warning, every sensor screen in the fleet went blank. "What happened to our sensors?" Gorath demanded. "Sir, all scanning equipment has stopped working," replied the chief technology officer. "It's not damaged. It's like something is blocking our signals." Before anyone could respond, ships began appearing around the Council fleet, not approaching from a distance, but simply materializing out of empty space. Within seconds, the Council force found itself surrounded by vessels that defied every principle of known engineering. The human ships seemed to exist partially outside normal space-time. Their hulls shimmered with energy patterns that hurt to look at directly. Some appeared to be in multiple locations simultaneously. Others flickered in and out of existence like ghosts. "This is Admiral Chris Parker of the Human Deep Space Fleet," came a voice over the communication system. "You are trespassing in human territory. State your purpose here." Admiral Gorath tried to respond, but found that his communication systems would only transmit when the humans allowed it. Somehow, they had taken control of Council technology without even boarding their ships. "We are here on a reconnaissance mission authorized by the Galactic Council," Gorath managed to say. "We demand that you explain your presence in this region and account for the disappearance of Council vessels." There was a pause before Admiral Parker responded. "The Council chose to exile us to this region 15 years ago. We have made it our home and developed it according to our needs. As for your missing ships, we offered their crews the opportunity to learn about technologies beyond Council understanding. Some chose to stay and study with us." "You're holding Council citizens against their will?" Gorath accused. "No," came the calm reply. "We're offering them knowledge and opportunities that the Council denies them. Every person who has remained with us did so by choice after seeing what human innovation has accomplished." Admiral Gorath looked at his tactical displays and felt his blood turn cold. The human ships weren't just surrounding his fleet. They were doing it from positions that should have been impossible to reach. Some appeared to be occupying the same space as Council vessels without causing collisions. Others seemed to be approaching from directions that didn't exist in normal three-dimensional space. "How are you doing this?" Gorath asked, abandoning military protocol in his amazement. "We learned from teachers you never knew existed," Admiral Parker replied. "The outer rim isn't empty, Admiral. It's full of knowledge left behind by civilizations that faced the same choice you're facing now: evolve or stagnate." The Council fleet attempted to retreat, but discovered that their ships would no longer respond to navigation commands. They weren't being held by force fields or tractor beams. Their technology simply refused to obey orders to leave the area. "Your ships will be returned to Council space in 24 hours, Admiral Parker announced. "Use that time to decide what message you want to carry back to your leaders. The age of Council dominance is ending. The question is whether that change happens peacefully or through conflict." Admiral Gorath and his fleet spent the most terrifying day of their lives, surrounded by human ships that demonstrated capabilities beyond imagination. When they were finally released and allowed to return to Council space, they carried with them the knowledge that everything had changed. The humans were no longer refugees struggling to survive in exile. They had become something far more powerful: Then the Council could comprehend, and they were no longer hiding their capabilities. 20 years after the human exodus, the Galactic Council faced the greatest crisis in their recorded history. Emergency sessions had been called for 3 straight days, but no one could agree on how to respond to the reports coming from the Outer Rim. The humans were no longer hiding in exile. They were actively exploring Council space with technology that made even the most advanced alien civilizations look primitive. Ambassador Zektar stood before the full Council assembly, his blue skin pale with fear and exhaustion. The confident leader who had celebrated humanity's departure was now desperately trying to hold together a galactic government that suddenly seemed fragile and outdated. Members of the Council, Zektar began, we must face the reality that our decision to exile the humans has created an unintended consequence. Intelligence reports confirm that human ships are now operating throughout our territory, not as invaders, but as explorers who can move through space in ways we cannot detect or prevent. The Council chamber erupted in frightened voices. Representatives from dozens of species demanded explanations for how a group of refugees had somehow become the most technologically advanced force in the galaxy. The careful order that had ruled galactic civilization for thousands of years was crumbling. Prime Analyst Kethmore activated a holographic display showing the latest sensor readings. Human vessels have been detected near 17 major Council worlds in the past month. They appear without warning, conduct unknown activities, and disappear before our fleets can respond. Our most advanced tracking systems cannot follow their movements. Admiral Jake Morrison, now the highest-ranking human military officer, materialized in the center of the Council chamber without any ship being detected by their sensors. His presence caused panic among the alien representatives, many of whom had never seen a human in person. Honorable Council members, Jake said, his voice carrying easily through the vast chamber. I come here today not as a conqueror, but as a representative of humanity with an offer that will determine the future of galactic civilization. Zektar stepped forward, trying to maintain some semblance of authority. You have no right to appear in our chambers without permission. This is an act of war. Jake smiled calmly. War implies that you have the ability to fight us. We both know that's no longer the case. 20 years ago, you exiled us because you feared that human innovation would disrupt your ordered society. You were correct to be afraid, but you chose the wrong response. Dr. Lisa Wang appeared beside Jake, carrying a device that seemed to bend light around itself. She had become humanity's chief diplomatic scientist, responsible for explaining their technological achievements to species that could barely comprehend them. We discovered something in the Outer Rim that your surveys missed, Lisa explained. The region you thought was empty and worthless actually contains the preserved knowledge of a civilization that existed millions of years before any current Council species evolved. They left behind libraries of scientific understanding specifically designed to be accessed by species that share their values of exploration and innovation. The Council members sat in stunned silence as the implications became clear. The humans had not just survived their exile. They had gained access to technologies and knowledge that predated the Council by eons. The previous civilization called themselves the Builders, Jake continued. They faced the same choice that confronts you today. A galactic empire built on rigid control and fear of change eventually destroyed them, but not before they prepared gifts for future species that might carry on their legacy of discovery and freedom. Commander Amy Johnson materialized at another point in the chamber, demonstrating the humans' ability to transport matter through space without detectable energy signatures. She had been overseeing the integration of builder technologies into human society for the past decade. We offer you the same choice the Builders offered their oppressors, Amy said. Abandon the hierarchical system that has stifled galactic progress for millennia, and we will share advanced technologies that can benefit all species. Continue to resist change and watch as the universe moves beyond your ability to influence or understand. Zektar felt his world collapsing around him. The species he had dismissed as chaotic refugees now possessed capabilities that made the Council's greatest achievements look like primitive tools. Worse, they were offering to share their knowledge, but only if the Council abandoned the very principles that had defined galactic civilization. "What you're proposing would destroy everything we've built," Zektar protested. "Without central authority and careful regulation, the galaxy would descend into chaos." Dr. Wang activated her device, creating a holographic display that showed the current state of human civilization. Instead of chaos, the images revealed a thriving network of worlds where different species work together voluntarily, sharing knowledge and resources without coercion. "The builders learned something that the Council has forgotten," Lisa explained. "True stability comes from diversity and adaptation, not from rigid control. When you suppress innovation and exploration, you create stagnation that eventually leads to collapse." Jake gestured toward the Council members, many of whom looked confused and frightened by concepts they had never considered. "Your current system is already failing. Trade disputes are increasing. Member species are questioning Council authority. Your technology has barely advanced in centuries, while you've focused on maintaining order instead of pursuing progress." Admiral Chris Parker appeared in the chamber, accompanied by representatives from several non-Council species that had chosen to join humanity's growing confederation. These aliens looked confident and prosperous, clearly benefiting from their association. "With human innovation, we're not asking you to abandon your cultures or your independence," Chris said. "We're offering you the opportunity to join a galactic community based on voluntary cooperation instead of forced compliance. Every species brings unique perspectives and capabilities. Together, we can achieve things that none of us could accomplish alone." The debate that followed lasted for hours. Some Council members were intrigued by the possibilities that human technology offered. Others were terrified of losing their positions of authority in the current system. A few tried to argue for military action against humanity, but Admiral Gorath's reports had made it clear that conventional weapons were useless against human capabilities. Finally, Zektar stood to address the assembly. The weight of history pressed down on him as he realized that his next words would determine the fate of galactic civilization. 20 years ago, I voted to exile humanity because I believed they were a threat to our ordered society," Zektar said slowly. "I was right about the threat, but wrong about the solution. By trying to remove them from our galaxy, we inadvertently gave them access to knowledge and resources that have made them more powerful than we ever imagined." He looked directly at Jake Morrison. "The world we knew is gone, isn't it? The Council's authority, our technological superiority, our control over galactic affairs, it's all obsolete now." Jake nodded solemnly. "The age of enforced order is ending, but the age of voluntary cooperation and unlimited potential is beginning. You can be part of that future, or you can cling to a past that no longer exists." As the human representatives departed through methods the Council could not detect or prevent, Zektar realized that they faced an impossible choice. Accept humanity's offer and abandon everything they had built, or refuse and watch helplessly as the galaxy moved beyond their reach. The Council that had once ruled the known galaxy now found themselves irrelevant observers to changes they could not stop or control. The humans they had exiled as dangerous troublemakers had become the architects of a new galactic order that would reshape civilization itself. In trying to protect their ordered universe from human unpredictability, they had lost everything they sought to preserve. The age of the Council was over, and humanity's true chapter in galactic history was just beginning. Jake Morrison walked through the long hallway toward the Council chamber. His black shoes made soft sounds on the smooth floor. The walls around him were made of some kind of crystal that glowed with blue light. He had been to this place many times before, but today felt different. Today the air seemed heavy with danger. Behind him walked Lisa Chen, his assistant. She carried a small computer pad and looked worried. Her steps were quick as she tried to keep up with Jake's long strides. Next to them walked Captain Ron Blake and two other human guards. They all wore dark blue uniforms with the Earth symbol on their shoulders. "Sir," Lisa said quietly, "the reports from our colonies are not good. The Zephyrian ships have been seen near our borders again." Jake nodded but did not slow down. He had read all the reports on his way here. 3 of the most powerful alien races in the galaxy were angry with humans. They said humans were taking too much space. They said humans were growing too fast and breaking the old rules. The truth was simple. Humans had been in space for only 50 years. The other races had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. They saw humans as young and stupid. They thought humans should stay quiet and follow orders. Jake reached the big doors of the council chamber. They were twice as tall as any human and covered with strange symbols. 2 alien guards stood on each side. They looked like giant insects with 4 arms and green skin. Their eyes followed Jake as he walked past them. The doors opened with a loud noise. Inside, the chamber was huge. The ceiling was so high that Jake could barely see it. Hundreds of seats were arranged in circles around a center stage. Most of the seats were filled with aliens of different shapes and sizes. Some aliens looked like birds with bright feathers. Others were made of what seemed like living rock that changed colors. There were tall, thin beings that looked almost like humans, but with gray skin and big black eyes. In the far corner sat creatures that seemed to be made of shadow and smoke. Jake walked to the center of the chamber. His footsteps echoed in the big space. All the alien eyes watched him. Some aliens made soft noises that might have been talking. Others were completely silent. At the front of the chamber sat Supreme Chancellor HFY. He was the leader of the Galactic Council. His body was like a giant bug, but he stood on 2 legs like a human. His skin was dark red and covered with hard plates. 4 arms moved as he gestured. His head had large black eyes and sharp teeth. "Human Ambassador Morrison," HFY said. His voice came through a machine that changed his alien sounds into words that humans could understand. "You have come at the right time." Jake stopped in the center and looked up at the Chancellor. "I am here as requested, Chancellor HFY." "Good." HFY stood up. His full height was almost 3 times taller than Jake. "We have important business to discuss today." Other aliens began to make more noise. Jake saw the Zephyrian delegate lean forward in his seat. The Zephyrians looked like large birds with golden feathers and sharp beaks. Their leader was named Kreetak, and he had been complaining about humans for months. Near the Zephyrians sat the representative from the Crystalline Collective. This alien looked like a walking piece of colored glass that changed from blue to purple to green. The Crystallines were very old and very smart. They did not like change. In another section sat the Void Hunters. These aliens were the most dangerous fighters in the galaxy. They looked like humans but taller and thinner. Their skin was pale white and their eyes were completely black. They did not speak much, but when they did, other aliens listened. "The council has been meeting for many days," HFY continued. "We have talked about the human problem." Jake felt Lisa step closer behind him. He knew she was scared, but he kept his face calm. "What problem is that, Chancellor?" "You know very well what problem." HFY's voice got louder. "Humans have been taking space that does not belong to them. You have built colonies in systems that were claimed by others. You have ignored the laws that keep peace in our galaxy." Kreetak, the Zephyrian leader, stood up. His golden feathers shook with anger. "Humans are like children playing with fire. They do not understand the damage they cause." The crystalline delegate pulsed with red light. This meant anger in their language. The Void Hunter representative said nothing but leaned forward in his chair. "The council has made a decision," HFY announced. Humans have exactly 72 standard cycles to remove all colonies and settlements beyond your home system. You will return to Earth and stay there. You will not expand further into space. The chamber fell completely silent. Jake could hear his own heartbeat. 72 cycles meant about 72 Earth days. It was not enough time to move millions of humans from dozens of worlds. Lisa made a small sound behind him. Captain. Blake's hand moved toward his weapon but stopped when Jake shook his head slightly. "And if we refuse?" Jake asked. HFY's teeth showed in what might have been a smile. "Then the three great powers will remove you by force. Your ships will be destroyed. Your colonies will be burned. Your people will be scattered across the galaxy as refugees with no home to return to." The threat was clear. The Zephyrian Empire had the largest military in the galaxy. The Crystalline Collective had technology that humans could barely understand. The Void Hunters were killers who had never lost a war. Together, these three powers could destroy all human settlements in space within days. Earth's military was strong, but it was nothing compared to alien fleets that had been fighting wars for thousands of years. "This is the will of the Council," HFY said. "Do you accept these terms, human ambassador?" Jake looked around the chamber. Hundreds of alien faces stared at him. Some looked curious. Others looked pleased. A few seemed almost sad. He thought about the human colonies. Families who had left Earth to build new lives among the stars. Children who had been born on distant worlds and had never seen their home planet. Scientists making discoveries that could help all of humanity. All of that would be lost if he said yes to this ultimatum. Jake Morrison took a deep breath and smiled. Jake's smile made several aliens move uncomfortably in their seats. It was not the expression they expected from a human who had just been told his species would be destroyed. "Chancellor HFY," Jake said in a clear, calm voice, "I appreciate the Council's decision. However, I would like to make a counter-proposal." Murmurs spread through the chamber like waves. The crystalline delegate pulsed with colors that meant confusion. Kretak's feathers ruffled as he leaned forward to hear better. "You are in no position to make proposals, human," HFY said. His four arms crossed over his chest. "You will accept our terms or face the consequences." "Of course," Jake nodded. "But surely the Council is interested in hearing what humanity has to offer before making final decisions." Lisa Chen looked up from her notes with wide eyes. She had worked with Jake for 3 years, but she had never seen him act like this. Captain Blake stepped closer, ready to protect the ambassador if the aliens became violent. "Speak quickly," HFY said. "The Council's patience is limited." Jake walked a few steps closer to the Chancellor's platform. "Humanity accepts the challenge you have given us. We agree that we should prove ourselves worthy of membership in this great council. But instead of simply running away, we propose a test of merit." "What kind of test?" asked the Void Hunter representative. It was the first time he had spoken. His voice was cold and sharp like broken glass. "Give us not 72 cycles, but 72 hours, Jake said. "In that time, we will accomplish something that benefits each of your 3 civilizations. Something significant. Something your own people have not been able to do." The chamber exploded with noise. Aliens made sounds of shock, anger, and what might have been laughter. The Zephyrian delegate's beak opened and closed without making words. The crystalline representative turned bright orange, which meant extreme surprise. HFY raised one of his arms for silence. Slowly, the noise died down. 72 hours? To accomplish what exactly? That is for the Council to decide. Jake replied. "Each civilization can choose one problem they face, one challenge that has been difficult for them to solve. We will attempt to help with all 3 problems in 72 hours. "This is madness." Kretak finally found his voice. "Humans have been in space for barely 50 of our years. How could you possibly solve problems that we have worked on for decades?" "Maybe we cannot," Jake admitted, But if we fail, humanity will accept far worse terms than you originally offered. Explain, the Void Hunter said. Jake took another step, forward. Behind him, Lisa's computer pad shook in her hands. If we fail to help all 3 civilizations within 72 hours, humanity will not just leave the outer colonies. We will evacuate our entire home system. Earth itself will become empty. Humans will scatter across the galaxy as refugees with no world to call home. The silence that followed was complete. Even the soft humming of the chamber's machines seemed to stop. Lisa dropped her computer pad. It clattered on the floor, the sound echoing in the vast space. Captain Blake grabbed Jake's arm. "Sir, with respect, you cannot make that decision alone. The President, the Colony Council, the military commanders—" "I am speaking as Earth's representative to this council," Jake said without looking back. "The decision is mine to make." HFY leaned forward on his platform. "You would bet your entire species on 72 hours? Yes. And if you succeed, what do you want in return? Full voting rights in this council. Recognition as equals, not as junior members who must ask permission. For everything. And the right to continue our expansion according to the same rules that govern all other civilizations." The 3 main delegates looked at each other. Conversations began in dozens of alien languages. Some species talked through flashing lights. Others used chemical signals that human noses could not detect. The crystalline delegate pulsed slowly from blue to green and back. This was how they showed deep thought. After several minutes, the crystal being spoke. "The crystalline collective has struggled with radiation-resistant expansion for 200 cycles. Our people cannot survive in high-energy environments. This limits our growth." Kretak's feathers smoothed down as he became more serious. "The Zephyrian agricultural worlds face destruction from the Silicon Plague. Our scientists have worked for 50 cycles to find a solution. Billions of our people depend on those farming planets." The Void Hunter representative was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his words sent chills through the chamber. "An unknown force hunts our people in the Outer Rim. We have lost contact with 12 of our colonies. Our greatest warriors have vanished without trace. We do not know what we fight." Jake nodded as if he had expected these exact problems. 3 challenges, 72 hours. If we help solve all 3, humanity gets full membership and expansion rights. If we fail at any one of them, we leave this galaxy entirely. "The stakes are acceptable," HFY said slowly. "But how do we know you will keep your word if you fail?" "Because," Jake said, "I am broadcasting this conversation live to every human colony and Earth itself. Billions of humans are watching. Right now. If I fail, they will know. And humans always keep their promises, especially the important ones." Lisa looked at her broken computer pad and then at Jake. She had not set up any live broadcast, but she stayed quiet. "The council will vote," HFY announced. "All in favor of accepting the human proposal?" Lights began flashing throughout the chamber. Green lights meant yes. Red meant no. After 2 minutes, the counting was done. "The vote is unanimous," HFY declared. "The council accepts your terms, Human Ambassador Morrison. You have 72 hours starting now. If you succeed, humanity gets everything you asked for. If you fail—" "We understand the terms," Jake said. "Then this session is ended. The clock begins now." As the aliens began filing out of the chamber, Jake stood perfectly still in the center. Lisa picked up her broken computer and walked over to him. "Sir," she said quietly, "there was no live broadcast." "I know. And you just bet our entire species on solving 3 impossible problems." "I know that too." Captain Blake joined them. "Jake, I have to ask, do you actually have a plan? Or did you just commit species suicide in the most dramatic way possible?" Jake Morrison turned toward the exit. For the first time since entering the chamber, his smile looked genuine. Ron, in my 20 years as a diplomat, I have learned one important thing about negotiations. What's that? Sometimes the only way to win is to bet everything you have on something everyone else thinks is impossible. As they walked toward the exit, none of them noticed the small recording device that Lisa's computer pad had been transmitting to. Across the galaxy, on dozens of human worlds, people had indeed been watching. And now they knew their fate rested on one man's impossible gamble. The 72-hour countdown had begun. News of Jake Morrison's impossible bet spread across human space faster than light-speed communications could carry it. On every colony world, in every space station, humans stopped what they were doing to stare at screens showing their ambassadors. Bold challenge. On the bridge of the Starship Endeavour, Admiral Kate Sullivan watched the recording for the third time. Her coffee had gone cold hours ago, but she did not notice. Around her, the bridge crew worked in tense silence. "Get me a direct line to Ambassador Morrison," she ordered. "Priority Alpha." "Admiral," her communications officer replied, "there's a queue of over 200 requests ahead of you. Colony governors, military commanders, the president himself. I don't care if God himself is calling. Get me Morrison now." 20 minutes later, Jake's image appeared on the main screen. He was sitting in his temporary quarters on the diplomatic station. Lisa Chen worked at a desk behind him, surrounded by data pads and computer screens. "Kate," Jake said with a tired smile, "I was wondering when you would call." "Have you completely lost your mind?" Sullivan's voice was controlled, but everyone on the bridge could hear the anger underneath. "You just bet our entire species on a 72-hour miracle." "Actually, I bet on human nature," Jake replied calmly. "There's a difference." "Don't give me philosophy, Morrison. Give me facts. How exactly do you plan to solve 3 problems that have stumped alien civilizations for decades?" Jake leaned back in his chair. "Tell me, Kate, how many impossible things has humanity accomplished in the last century?" "That's not an answer. It's the only answer that matters." Jake stood up and walked to his window. Outside, alien ships of every shape and size drifted past the diplomatic station. 100 years ago, humans thought flying was impossible. 50 years ago, faster-than-light travel was a dream. 20 years ago, we thought we were alone in the universe. Captain Blake, who had been standing quietly by the door, stepped forward. "Admiral Sullivan, with respect, Ambassador Morrison knows exactly what he's doing." "Enlighten me, Captain." "He's doing what humans always do when we're backed into a corner," Blake said. "He's changing the rules of the game." On another screen, Lisa Chen looked up from her work. "Admiral, we've been analyzing the 3 problems the alien civilizations presented. Each one has been approached using traditional alien thinking. They're trying to solve them the way their species has always solved problems." "And that's wrong?" Sullivan asked. "Not wrong," Jake said, turning back to the screen. "Just limited. The Zephyrians are trying to destroy the Silicon Plague using biological weapons. The Crystalline Collective is attempting to build better radiation shields. The Void Hunters are hunting their unknown enemy with bigger guns and faster ships." Sounds reasonable to me. It would be if they were facing normal problems, but these aren't normal problems. They're what humans would call paradigm shifts. They require completely different ways of thinking. Sullivan rubbed her temples. "Jake, I need more than theories. I need a plan." "The plan is already in motion." Jake walked back to his desk and picked up a data pad. "Dr. Sam Rodriguez is taking the next transport to Zephyrian space. Maria Santos is heading to the crystalline frontier, and Captain Blake here is going to visit the Void Hunters." 3 people? Sullivan's voice rose. "You're sending 3 people to solve problems that have stumped entire civilizations?" 3 humans, Jake corrected. "And that makes all the difference." Blake spoke up again. "Admiral, I've read the reports on the Void Hunter situation. Their colonies aren't being destroyed by superior firepower. They're disappearing without any signs of battle." No debris, no distress calls. Nothing. That sounds like a military problem to me. Only if you assume the enemy is military, Jake said. But what if it's not? What if the Void Hunters are being hunted by something that doesn't think like a warrior species? Sullivan stared at the screen for a long moment. You think it's an artificial intelligence? I think it's something that sees the Void Hunters' advanced technology as a threat. Something that's eliminating them systematically because they represent danger to its existence. And you plan to do what? Negotiate with a genocidal AI? I plan to do what humans have always done with misunderstood enemies, Jake said. I plan to try talking first before shooting. Lisa Chen looked up from her computer again. Admiral Dr. Rodriguez just sent his initial report from the Zephyrian agricultural world. The Silicon Plague isn't behaving like any biological organism he's ever seen. What do you mean? It's too organized, too purposeful. It's not randomly destroying crops. It's following specific patterns, almost like it's trying to accomplish something. Jake nodded. Which means it might not be a plague at all. It might be technology. Alien terraforming technology, Lisa added. Something left behind by an extinct civilization. And instead of trying to destroy it, Jake continued, we might be able to reprogram it. Sullivan felt a headache forming behind her eyes. And Santos? What miracle is she supposed to perform for the Crystalline Collective? She's not performing a miracle, Jake said. She's applying basic human engineering principles. The Crystallines have been trying to block radiation for 200 years. Maria is going to show them how to use it instead. Use radiation? Humans have been turning dangerous energy into useful power for over a century. Nuclear reactors, solar panels, geothermal generators. We don't fight dangerous forces, we harness them. Blake checked his chronometer. Sir, if I'm going to make my transport to Void Hunter space, I need to leave now. Go, Jake said. Remember, Ron, don't approach this like a military operation. Approach it like a first contact situation. Understood, sir. After Blake left, Sullivan stared at Jake through the screen. This is insane. You're asking 3 people to accomplish in 72 hours what alien civilizations couldn't do in decades. No, Jake corrected her again. I'm asking 3 humans to look at old problems with fresh eyes. The aliens have been working on these problems for so long that they can't see simple solutions anymore. And if you're wrong? If your people can't solve these problems? Jake was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was serious. Then humanity will learn what it's like to be refugees in our own galaxy. Every human will be scattered across alien worlds, dependent on the charity of species that already think we're too dangerous to trust. You really think this will work? Kate, do you remember what you told me when I took this job 5 years ago? Sullivan smiled despite her worry. I told you that diplomacy was just war by other means. And what did I tell you? You said that was the alien way of thinking, that humans prefer to turn enemies into allies rather than simply defeating them. Exactly. Jake's smile returned. In 68 hours, we're going to prove that the human way is better. After the call ended, Sullivan sat alone on her bridge, staring at the stars beyond her viewports. Around the galaxy, 3 humans were racing against time to save their entire species. Dr. Rodriguez was studying alien agriculture with soil samples and microscopes. Maria Santos was sketching radiation conversion designs on the back of engineering manuals. Captain Blake was preparing to have a conversation with something that had been killing Void Hunters for months, and somewhere on a diplomatic station, Ambassador Jake Morrison was betting everything on the idea that humans could solve any problem if they just thought about it differently. The countdown timer on Sullivan's screen showed 67 hours and 43 minutes remaining. Humanity's fate now rested on 3 impossible solutions to 3 impossible problems. The universe was about to learn what humans could accomplish when their backs were against the wall.